Our guest this episode is Dan Goodstein, a trusted resource for enterprises worldwide navigating AI, the future of work, digital transformation, robotic process automation, and customer experience transformation. As the leader of multiple technology associations with over 135 executives, he brings deep expertise into go-to-market strategy, marketing, and sales leadership. Daniel excels in brand positioning, demand generation, and business growth. And whether he's advising on media strategy or the latest tech trends, he's at the forefront of the industry evolution. Here to discuss how businesses can stay ahead in a rapidly changing landscape, welcome Daniel Goodstein. Welcome to the Engaging Personalities Podcast. I'm Anders Belanger, founder and CEO of Engagify, where we're on a mission to rehumanize business through engagement. We believe that we can all be more successful if we can command attention and deepen connection. So stick around to the end of the show and we'll reveal how you can be our next guest on a future episode. So let's get ready to engage.
Thanks, Anders. Good to be here.
Yes. So this is always this kind of like pull back the curtain. Before we were officially started, we were talking about, you do a lot of things and, ahead of 3 industry associations. Can you kind of talk about those and what that's all about? Because, I mean, I feel like you are on the forefront of things because you're just so connected with everyone and seeing what's out there. So can you kind of explain to our audience what you do, and then we can kind of dive into some more specifics?
Yeah. So, two main hats I wear. As you say, I run these associations, ERPA AI and the Digital Enterprise Institute are 2 kind of industry neutral professional associations, industry bodies devoted to helping large enterprises figure out really emerging technologies. Right now, we focus a lot on automation, AI, of course, but really any technology that an enterprise is trying to figure out how to implement and get the benefits of, and those sorts of things. I started my career as a technologist, realized very early on I was better at the business side of technology than the technical side of technology. And so I found myself in the media business for a while, then ended up running sales and marketing programs for a couple of big tech firms, the Xeroxes and HPs and IBMs of the world. And then came to run the originally the media business and now the associations. So that's kind of one hat that I wear. The other is I'm a business coach, I'm kind of a business therapist, if you will. I've been able to glean a lot of insights from working with not only those big companies but also startups in this in the B2B tech space for almost 20 plus years now. So I've tried to kind of parlay some of that information into helping founders of SMBs and mid-market companies with just how to run and grow a business in general, and do a lot of sales and marketing advising for large corporations.
That's cool. And you said business therapist, and now I'm looking, for those of you who can't see the video or anything, but Dan has a business therapist right on his
yeah, I never know what shirt to wear depending on the
interview. Yeah, no, that's cool. But, that's awesome. So one of the things you were talking about is advising these different enterprises in adopting AI, adopting automation, that sort of thing. What are some of the biggest challenges they're facing? Like, they know they should do it, but they don't know how to go about doing it, or what do you see out there as that kind of first issue that a lot of companies are facing, if you saw an overall trend?
Yeah, there's a couple, but the thing with AI, which is great, is that it checks a couple different boxes in the sense of it's something that is so prolific, so such a change agent in our society today that it's tough to ignore. And there are a long list of use cases where big companies as well as solopreneurs can benefit from the democratization of this technology, which wasn't accessible to everybody, a few years ago. It existed a few years ago, but it wasn't as the access wasn't to it wasn't as easy as it is today. But on the other hand, you also have people that, like a lot of technology trends, that are just trying to do it for the sake of doing it. They think it's the new thing, the cool thing, and so good sales and marketing people, I've started getting in the habit when people come to me and say, "Hey, I want to do AI." I try, as much as I'm an evangelist of this stuff and excited about it, I try to just ask them why. And more times than not, they can't tell me why. They describe a problem that they're trying to solve that they don't necessarily need AI for, right? So sometimes AI is the answer. Other times it just gets, getting people to get down to the brass tacks of what they're really trying to accomplish, what outcome they're trying to get to.
Well, I think it's well, buzzword is probably underdoing
Yeah.
it. Working at all the trade shows, I think it's now more so common that it almost fades to the background. But it used to be everyone put their AI twist on it, and it's like woo. But yeah, you're right. The fear of missing out is almost driving some of that sense of wanting to adopt. But I mean, no one wants to get left behind. I get that. We're always talking about, customer engagement, customer experience, and that sort of thing on this podcast. And I know you work in that area as well. What are you seeing that, or what are things that businesses can do to make that customer experience better from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big proponent of transforming customer experience because, depending on who you are watching this podcast, actually, regardless of who you are watching this podcast, you probably have more bad customer experience stories than good ones, right? But the good ones are the ones that create real loyalty, especially in a world where technology is becoming more and more commoditized, like a lot of other goods and services, right? So I'm a big believer that I think it's starting now, but certainly a year from now, 5 years from now, you're going to do business with companies that give you a great experience. Not necessarily because Coke tastes better than Pepsi, or one retailer has a better shirt than another retailer. It's going to be about that experience. So customer experience is a differentiator. The companies I deal with, I'm always telling them they got to stop looking at customer contact center and customer experience as a cost center. They got to start thinking of it as a revenue center, and really should be residing within marketing, or at least that side of the organization, and not just in the part of the organization where they try to cut costs all the time.
Yeah, I think what you're saying too about that, like the loyalty that you're trying to generate for your customer loyalty is interconnected, or integrated in with the trust and the communication of a company. Do you see new and better ways of doing that these days in terms of whether it's the reach out, whether it's the connection?
Yeah, I mean, there's some technical ones, right? There's some actually very interesting use cases for AI around conversational AI. Most of the reason why you're not engaging with AI more right now is that there are companies out there that I won't mention that have business models that are based on having people butts in seats. Answering phones and things like that. But the technology is there today. I would argue that there's technology out there now that creates a better experience than dealing with people a lot of the time. Not every time, but a lot of the time. So technology is one. And then I think, when you do have a person on the phone, you want that person to feel more like white glove service, more of a concierge type of person, not just somebody in a back office, somebody somewhere that hates their job, right? So I think if you kind of combine those two, I envision a world where 90% of your issues are resolved. The best experience is usually a quick one. You're trying to change your flight and you gotta get somewhere, and I don't need at least me personally, I don't need the warm and fuzzy small talk of a conversation. I just want it done, right? But there are situations that are bigger and more challenging where you want to talk to a person, and then in that case, those people need to be super high touch. I know you're a big fan of this, super engaging, make you feel like give them the tools to help you, which a lot of companies haven't done a good job of. But even if they don't have the tools to help you, the personality and the empathy to be understand your problem, make you feel like they're going to do whatever they can to resolve your problem.
Yeah, and I think when people are frustrated and need help, right? They need to just sometimes just acknowledging that frustration with that empathy that you're talking about, just really, people feel heard, and you know that the company has got you, it does alleviate a lot of that kind of, tension where otherwise sometimes it's, yeah, never acknowledged, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
that sort of thing. Talking about AI and calling in, I get so frustrated with some of the stuff that I want my own version of AI to navigate everyone else's customer experience. Like just get this done and go talk to it. And I wish that was kind of like uh, someone's worked that out. I hope eventually
Yeah.
someday. So what do you think? How are we get back to the communication side of things? How are companies, improving their communication either internally or externally with their customers these days? Are you seeing some new trends and things happening out there that is maybe a quantum leap or any sort of game changers out there?
I don't know that I am, and I think that's part of the challenge is that what a lot of companies have realized as they've tried to implement better customer experience and AI technologies is that they don't have a cohesive knowledge base across the organization, right? And so you hear some of these stories where, oh, AI went rogue and hallucinations and promised something to a customer that they weren't supposed to promise. And, there's a lot of blame thrown at the technology for that. But I would argue that's not the technology, that's the organization. That's the organization not having the
Yeah.
right strategy, the right policy, and to your question, the right communication in place. I mean, how many times have you been on a call where you ask like a really human question to an agent, like why? Well, that's the policy yeah, but that's nice that that's the policy. Why is that the policy? And they don't know. They're reading off a
Mhm.
script or something. So
Yeah.
that's the challenge, right? And you see, of course, it's more challenging with bigger organizations because so many silos, so many locales, different regulations and laws in different places. So it is hard, but we've all had that feeling where you call up 5 different times, you get 5 different answers to the same question. And so I don't know. I think hopefully, AI does have an opportunity there too to kind of unify all that. We talk a lot about AI engaging with customers, but there's also a lot of internal AI going on where you might have access to an AI bot that's giving you information as you're on the phone with somebody, right? So things like that can help, but unfortunately, I haven't seen them working quite yet.
Early days, early days. Well, what you were just saying reminds me. One of our clients that we work with at trade shows is AvePoint, and they work primarily in the Microsoft, like with Copilot, right? They work in the
Mhm.
Microsoft ecosystem, if you will, and they're helping put guardrails on the AI because you have Copilot installed across your company, and it's suddenly accessing information that may not shouldn't be accessed by the normal employee,
Sure.
right? Whether it's old or out of date, maybe too sensitive, that sort of thing. So yeah, we're in early days, and AI is going to be, not rearing its ugly head. It's just there's that rough edge to it that we're still trying to figure out, right?
It
Um,
puts a magnifying glass on systems and processes that are already broken. I think that's the thing. It accelerates the current state. So if you don't do anything to, transform the way that you're doing things, it's gonna zoom in on that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So with the three organizations that you're on top of, how often are you like, are there events that you're holding, or how does everyone share information and network effectively from each other, from their memberships that you oversee?
Yeah, historically it was events. We did conferences, member summits, we called them, across the globe every year. We had about a dozen and a half chapters that would meet 3, 4 times a year throughout North America, Europe, Latam, Asia, and then of course the world shut down in 2020. So we figured out, we were trying to figure out how do we do a lot of research and publishing and media, but our main kind of claim to fame is community and networking. And so how do you do that in the middle of a global pandemic? So we do a lot of it virtually now. We do a lot of matchmaking. We do a lot of brokering between buyers and sellers on our network, and we have some community platforms and things for people to interact. And what we found is that it actually, in a lot of ways, at least for the events that we were doing, works better because you're not limited to the locale or the maturity of who's at the physical event. So it's kind of like the event never ends; it's always ongoing, and we're not waiting for the next the event to connect people.
Right. Yeah. And from working, let's kind of shift. Well, not shift gears. It's kind of, I think it works in both sides. But like from what you're seeing there, but also being a business therapist for companies and startups and things like that. What is there some common challenges that these startups are facing that if someone was listening at a startup, they're like, oh yeah, we got to fix that. Is there something that crops up for you time and time again that you wish you could just solve once and for all?
Yeah, listen, I mean, you have the chat. I think it's true in any business, any industry, but especially in the tech industry, you tend to have companies that are run by tech people, right? So, they're very good at the tech, but they're not necessarily, always good at articulating a value proposition or how they differentiate, versus others. And in a world that's becoming, more and more noisy, it's even more important to stick out, right? So I know that's largely what you guys do. So that's one of it. It's creating engagement. How do you stick out? How do you rise above that noise? How do you separate yourself from others? And the other is just simplification. I was reminded, just these things happen in your life. Maybe a year ago, my daughter, who's now 9, when she just turned 8, she finally like walked into my office at home one day and was like, "Daddy, what do you do up here?" And when you have to explain what you do to an 8-year-old, it's different, right? I consider myself a pretty good communicator, marketer, and I struggled with how do I communicate? What do I do to an 8-year-old, right? So I think that's the mantra that I kind of go by, which is, if you can't articulate, the quintessential, elevator pitch, yes, but if you can't articulate, in the first 3 seconds somebody hits your website, in the first 5 seconds somebody meets you, if you can't articulate what you do in a simple way and in an engaging way, you're done, right? Because people are
Yeah.
moved on to the next thing at that point.
I host executive roundtables for event leaders from time to time, and we were just having this conversation yesterday that people walk up to a trade show booth and they look up and they see whatever headline people have chosen to use on their booth, and sometimes it's so smart and clever and cutesy that people don't actually know what the company does, right?
Yeah.
Like, and they have to look up and they go, what do you guys do? Right. And so one of our guests yesterday is people would walk by and he'd recognize that look on their face, and then he would just kind of give the product category. So in this case, it was, in security penetration testing, right? We do penetration testing. He would just lean in and smile, and people go, oh, we're looking for that. But the booth didn't actually stop them,
Right.
because of that, right? So that simplifying things down, like you just said, and technology. I mean, that's one of the things that when we come into a company, we have to understand it. We're an outsider in a sense. We work in tech all the time, but if we can learn it and then communicate it in that simplified form, it goes a long ways to resonating with people. Which brings me to my next question. The term digital transformation, Dan, has been around for a while now, right? Early on, I think it had a different meaning. Where do you see, how would you simplify and maybe update the definition of
Yeah.
digital transformation in 2025?
So let me start with what it's not. It's not digital marketing, and it's not digitization, which is, hey, I got a bunch of paper stuff and I got to get it into data form. Those are the two ones I get all the time where people get confused. It's an overused term, right? But I think digital transformation is about using emerging technologies to change the way that you're doing business. And the easy examples are the Ubers of the world, right? Where they didn't have the legacy systems to deal with when they started, but they said, hey, how do we change the business model? How do we use technology to change an industry? Or if you are a legacy company, how do you use technology to just completely change the way you engage with customers, the way you sell, the way you operate? That's at its a lot easier said than done, but that's really what it is. It's like what we were talking about before with the AI exasperating bad processes, right? And I'd spent a lot of time in the software automation space, robotic process automation space. And the reason why that space was so big for so long is because it was band-aiding legacy systems together without really forcing companies to transform. So they were really just doing the same old broken things at scale.
Yeah. Now, when you talk about robotic process automation, I think about, and I think you were kind of alluding to this, but like I think about manufacturing and like the ABB arms and that sort of thing. What's maybe describe that a little bit for me, because I feel like that's something that I've not been privy to that much. What is that
Talk
all
about tech guys
touch?
ruining a marketing message. Yeah, no, that was I won't call out the company who did it, but there was just a vendor in the space that was trying to get people to understand what software automation was, and they decided that they were going to liken it to a robot. Even so much so to confuse people that the original graphics and collateral was a bunch of physical manufacturing robots, which I guess hindsight's 2020, but looking back at that, well, that was a huge mistake because it confused the industry for years. Although I guess it created an opportunity for us and others that follow the space, and have a lot of people that are confused coming to us for clarification. But yeah, no, it's all software. So I guess the analogy is that if you had a person sitting in an office with 3 or 4 different systems that don't talk to each other, they're in this kind of proverbial swivel chair of being able to go from
Yeah.
system to system to system. So they eventually built software robots that could integrate all those systems together and get those systems to talk to each other. That's basically what it is. There's a bunch of different
Okay. So
flavors of it, but that's essentially what
I'm
it is.
learning something here, because yeah, it's like no, really that to me, what you just described just sounds like interoperability, right?
Yeah.
Like just and connecting systems together. You know,
Yeah, I mean, some people have even said it's kind of advanced
yeah,
early APIs, right?
yeah,
But there's systems that didn't have APIs, and they were essentially, building software that would connect the two.
yeah. So if you had the ability to look into your, crystal ball, if you will, Dan, what do you see coming in the next couple of years? As technologies emerge and change out there.
I think you start getting, we're in this excitement hype stage with AI. I think you're going to start seeing a trend back to what they used to refer to as kind of narrow AI, which is like specific use cases for AI is both a misnomer and also an overgeneralized umbrella term, right? But there's technologies out there that, we talked about conversational AI, we've talked about Gen AI, generative AI. There's been, big data and analytics for a long time. There's been machine learning for a long time. There's document processing, which has come a long way thanks to AI taking paper documents and not only extracting the data from them, but actually actioning the data and making decisions based on the data. So there's a bunch of different categories. I think the one that we've been talking about that I'm most excited about is AI for sales and marketing, where you can target at scale, personalize at scale, and get technology to do the parts of the sales and marketing process that humans aren't good at, or just repetitive kind of work that they don't need to necessarily do, and allow humans to focus more and more on being human, being engaging, being creative, doing the things that we all can do, but don't end up getting to do a lot of the time because we're pushing paper from here to there.
Yeah. Now, when you talked about scaling on the sales side of things using AI, I had a little conversation on LinkedIn a few weeks back, going back and forth, where I was kind of saying, I don't think you can scale authenticity, right? But AI attempts to do that in certain ways, whether it's these videos that, change the background and make it look like you're on their LinkedIn page,
Yeah.
whether it's, all these, like, it's like mail merge tags on steroids kind of
Yeah.
thing to try to make it look personalized and specific to then, again, make that engage with that person because it's you focused, if you will, or on them. But what is your take on that? Like, I like how you said being human and we focus on that sort of thing, because that's That's our differentiator compared to AI,
Yeah.
I guess. So can we scale authenticity, or what's your take on that? Because I feel like people will figure that out and then that'll stop working. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know. I have the exact answer to it. What I'll tell you is that some of those technologies are good and some of them are not, right? We've all seen ones where, you could tell it's a bot, you could tell it's automated, you could tell it's not personalized, they really didn't go to your site, right? So some of them are better
Yeah.
than others. But some of them are good. I mean, some of them have gotten me where I do this for a living. I actually believed that, they had like a personalized, pitch or offer for me. And it was at least enough to get me into a conversation. And I think that's the goal of that. I don't think you can outsource the entire process to AI unless you're maybe, selling a low price product. But for services and for the stuff we do, I think it helps kind of create conversations and cater what a lot of organizations don't do well is catering a pitch to the right persona. Right. And so I think it allows you to do that at a scalable way. But to your point, I think the bigger opportunity is its ability to filter. Right.
Yeah.
Because, typical 80-20 rule, especially in sales, right? 80% of your revenue coming from 20% of your customers. The challenge is always, how do you find that 20%? Right. So if you can use some of these technologies to filter out the junk, the people that aren't serious, the people that are just, kicking tires and things, and allow the real opportunity to rise to the top so you can put your humans on that. I think that's where this thing really starts scaling.
Yeah, like using AI to measure buyer intent or some sort of, interest level, right? A hot score or whatever you call it. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, we have a sales agency that does a lot of has replaced a lot of traditional SDR and cold lead generation people that typical problems, right? It's again 80-20. The majority of them are not good, and you're trying to always replicate your best sales rep, and then you get a good sales rep and they end up leaving or getting promoted, and there's a lot of turnover. So we've seen some good experiences using email, LinkedIn, even phone now. Phone as a channel has become less and less, conversion wise. But if you can, do it with technology and opposed to having a person do it, then, the ROI is still kind of there. So, we've seen some good success with that. Also with, using those technologies to target, right? So instead of doing this kind of spray and pray thing, identify, like you said, based on buyer intent or based on profiles, use these technologies to target the right audience in the first place.
Interesting. Dan, you know what? Before we wrap up here, I want to kind of like, you have a podcast. I want you to kind of shout out to that and then talk about the three organizations you're on top of. And if people were listening and thought, I want to plug into that, how would I go about doing that? And also how to reach out to you. So there's
thank you.
3 things.
So the podcast is the Digital Leaders Show. It's live every Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 Pacific on LinkedIn, YouTube, and then it goes to all the podcast platforms. So that's really aimed at helping people, in general around kind of digital transformation and how to be a good leader in the space right now. My coaching business is businesstherapist.org. If you need help launching a business, growing a business, developing sales and marketing strategy, go to market for a business. And if you're in the automation AI space, irpaai.org, IRPAAI.org is the association that we run.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to share your perspective with us here on the podcast. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks.
All right. And to all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in once again. And until next time, you know what to do. Stay engaged. Thank you so much for listening to Engaging Personalities. If you believe this world needs more engagement and you're an industry leader or you have an interesting take on rehumanizing business, go to go.engagify.ai/podcast-guest to apply and come on the show. If you got something out of this interview, do you mind sharing it on your social media? Just grab a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on the socials. If you know someone that would be a great guest, Tag them on social media to let them know about the show. Include the hashtag Engaging Personalities. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episode, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, engageify.ai, or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening, and stay engaged.